Bonjour.
Hello and welcome to So French, le podcast about France, its crazy politics and life à la française. My name is Sara Bertilsson.
And my name is Stefan Vries.
This week, as the famous Cannes Film Festival is in full swing, however, it is not the question about who will win the Palme d'Or that is making headlines, but who will have the possibility to even be in upcoming films in France in the future.
Yes, at La Croisette, it's the talk of the town. We are taking a closer look at French billionaire Vincent Bolloré because his multi-tentacular media conglomerate is going to decide who is allowed to make movies or not. And we talk about his power over French media and culture.
And will Édouard Philippe lose his status as top candidate for next year's presidential election after accusations of embezzlement of public funds in his hometown of Le Havre?
But first we go to the south of France where the Festival du Film in Cannes is taking place. But it's not all about the quality of the movies, Sarah.
This week, the headlines were not about cinema very much. What made headlines was, first of all, a petition from more than 600 cinema workers who wanted to raise awareness about Vincent Bolloré, who is then a major stakeholder in French cinema, and his, what they say, right-wing civilizational project. And especially the response from Vincent Bolloré's company, then Canal+, who is one of the major financiers of French cinema, who said, well, if you're signing this petition against Vincent Bolloré, well, we are going to blacklist you from appearing actually in anything that is related to Canal+. Stefan, are you surprised? I mean, art is political. Is this just business as usual in France?
Well, of course, art is political, and especially in the film festival in Cannes, that has a very long tradition of political movies and reflecting.
It was even started as a reaction to the Venice festival, if I don't misremember.
Absolutely, and of course, in 1968, when there were riots in Paris, the student revolt, it had a huge impact on the festival. So during the ages, the Cannes Film Festival has been a stage of politics, but this is really something completely different. It is a billionaire trying to get a huge influence in the French media world. He already has. Vincent Bolloré, he leads an industrial group, and with the billions he earned, he already bought television stations, newspapers, radio stations, and that, of course, is happening in many countries. But Vincent Bolloré is using this media empire to launch or to support candidates of the extreme right. So it really sounds a bit like Viktor Orban, Hungarian practices. And of course, what's happening in Cannes is related to the fact that Canal+, one of Europe's largest television and cinema groups, is also owned by Vincent Bolloré. And through Canal+, Bolloré finances many European film productions, but almost every French movie is made with some kind of connection through Canal+. And apparently, he doesn't like being criticized by filmmakers. And he looks very irritated by the fact that 600 movie workers, so also actors, directors, screenwriters, now say that his power on French cinema is becoming too big. And the fact that he reacts in this way, or that his deputy or the director, Maxime Sada of the Canal+ group, reacts in this way, shows that they may have a point, actually. How do you see this? Are their petition, is that the right weapon? Who will win?
I mean, first of all, just the power. I mean, it is incredible the influence that Canal Plus has over French cinema production and European cinema production. We should mention that as well. This is not just France, it's Europe. It has 43%, it finances 43% of French films.
So almost
if I
one in
got the
two.
numbers right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Incredible.
It has the rights, pre-bought the rights for 74% of French feature films produced. And I think that this is numbers from 2025 or 2024. And they have an investment plan for 480 million euros for French cinema through 2027. So the influence, I mean, the power is of course immense. Is are petitions the right way to move forward? I don't know, but like you say, the reaction from the reaction after the petition says something that they clearly. I mean, it was a touchy point. They touched upon something that was very sensitive. I think.
Apparently, yeah.
You have those who say that, and should be mentioned though that after Sara and Canal Plus came out with this then threat of blacklisting all these people who signed the petition, another 1,500 people, or 1,500 cinema workers, we should say, have now signed the petition. So it's actually more people that they're going to have to do without then if they want to produce. What some are saying is that, well, sure, Vincent Bolloré, his influence and his media conglomerate and the influence in the far right, how we've seen far-right politics taking over TV channels, radio stations, newspapers that he's owning, publishing houses, etc. That is true, but at the same time, we don't see the same thing with Canal Plus. It still has like a very diverse. It finances a very diverse set of films. So that was some of those who didn't sign the petition were saying this. While others are saying that, this is just a question of time. We will soon see the takeover like we saw in other areas. But at the same time, I don't know, is petition, what will the petition actually do?
Well, if enough people sign it or join up, then there will be no movie industry in France anymore that Canal Plus can use for movies. But I don't think it will get this far because Canal Plus is already over about 40 years a very dominant player in the French and European media industry. It has financed so many Oscar winners and very avant-gardist movie makers, launched very well-known directors. So it has a very strong tradition and reputation of being a very creative organization as well. But we should look, I think, at the bigger picture, pun intended, because if, of course, you dominate the whole chain of production, you can also influence public opinion. And we didn't mention yet, but Bolloré Group recently acquired 34% of France's second largest cinema chain, UGC, the very well-known cinema chain in France, and they're aiming for full ownership in 2 years from now. So that means that the whole production chain, from idea to distribution and television as well, is in the hands of one person. It all sounds like Hungary to me. Vincent Orbán,
and he does have a very clear political project. I mean, he's not making any. I mean, he's not hiding his political ambitions, and he has the publishing houses that he has taken over and completely changed over these past years. We have seen a publishing house that has now become a far-right politician's publishing house, where we see books from Jordan Bardella, from Philippe de Villiers, our own podcast favorite Nicolas Sarkozy also published his prison diary.
We
with
succeeded in mentioning
Bolloré.
Sarkozy again.
Of course. And so there is a clear track record of how things go about in the Bolloré family, so to speak. Speaking of a bigger picture, maybe we should also talk about the fact, why is financing of European cinema concentrated to one company?
Yeah.
Where are all the other finances? Well, is there no other interest in Europe to actually have a diverse, functioning cinema production?
Absolutely. And it may have something to do with the way French movies are financed. Interestingly enough, American movies are partly financing French cinema. That's part of the l'exception culturelle that France already always very proud of. And that's one of the reasons why France has such a strong movie industry, and why this group Canal Plus became so large. But you're absolutely right to mention the fact that there are very few big European players, even though some things are changing. The streaming platforms like Netflix and Disney in some countries like France, but also other countries in Europe, are obliged to invest a small part of their turnover into local cinema. But yeah, it's also an interesting sign in these times that we're talking about European autonomy, strategic autonomy, that there's so few big movie producers in Europe. It's all very small scale, actually. A good question.
Yeah, I was thinking, Stefan, because you spend a lot of time in Brussels these days, and cover a lot of European politics. Is there, when we talk about European independence and sovereignty, is there anyone talking about the culture aspect of it?
Not very often, because culture is always seen as some kind of hobby of the left, but it's also a very big part of the economy. It's about, if I'm not mistaken, about 3% of the European economy is related to cultural institutions, cultural productions, whether it goes from TV to museums, you name it. And there are, of course, many European programs to support makers throughout Europe and even outside Europe. But it's not a priority, I have the impression. I think that's a mistake, because through culture you can also create a European space, a European identity. The only thing really European cultural is what we had last week, and you and I are both big fans of the Eurovision Song Festival. Yeah, there are maybe too few European initiatives when it comes to culture, because it's not considered something that is crucial. I think that's a mistake. And this
It's
example
interesting
of
because how
Bolloré,
can you miss the fact of soft power? If you see how America has built its international state, its place in the world is the real world power. It's so much through culture, of course, and we are all watching American movies, we're listening to American music, etc. And we also know that this has been part of other countries like Korea and the K-pop and the whole the Japanese culture and all that, and that Europe, with such an incredible cultural heritage, can't just understand what power this holds and how important it can be. But you to go back to Bolloré, this is it's right, I think, to remind about the Orban and the Hungarian situation, but we see it in other countries as well, how fewer and fewer people own the media, and how they're using these media as platforms for a political agenda.
Yeah, absolutely. How will this end, do you think? Will Bolloré finally decide to work with these people again? Because maybe they're also very talented people, or talented.
Oh,
No?
the standoff. I really don't know how this will end. I think if more people sign up, maybe, as you say, they will end up being so many that it will be difficult to actually ignore them and to blacklist all of these people. There are quite a few famous names on that list. But at the same time, the financial, the power of the Bolloré group today is so immense. I think it can easily also pick out the people that they want to clamp down on and use other media outlets to talk badly about them. They could easily, I think, if they want to destroy a director, a screenwriter, an actor. So they hold such great power. I guess we're just going to have to wait and see if they actually fulfill this promise of blacklisting, or if they will back down and say, well, we will try to sort this out in one way or the other. But then, of course, the future will have to answer the question of what will happen. Are these? The people signing the petition, are they right? Are we going towards a streamlined, more traditional, conservative French cinema or European cinema because of Bolloré and his power?
Well, I'm sure we'll talk about Bolloré again in the next few months, because he also plays a part in the presidential campaign, at least his media will. And that brings us to our next topic, because we are starting the countdown to next year's presidential election. Only 47 weeks to go, Sara. And of course, we'll keep you updated on all these developments in the race to become France's next top leader. We mentioned it already in our last episode, but since then we have a little bit more confirmation of one of the many presidential candidates, also many presidential former PMs, prime ministers, hopefuls. One of them is Elisabeth Borne.
Last time we talked about the fact that she had left the leadership of the Renaissance Party, so Macron, the Macron-founded party, now led by Gabriel Attal, another former prime minister. And now it's a little bit clearer, because, there were rumors that she might try to, build her own political movement or something. And yes, indeed, this is what she's doing. And she's she even calls it bâtissons ensemble. So that's cool. That means like, let's build together. Let's build together. So she's clearly building something. She hasn't announced officially that she is a candidate, but there is at least a potential candidacy for the presidential election going on here.
It makes me laugh always in French politics, all these politicians that start their own political party and they're not even able to get along with each other or to develop something within an existing party. Bâtissons ensemble. So she's building together something. Is she building a presidential bid?
But we don't know yet. She hasn't officially announced it. She has created this political movement, as we said, Bâtissons ensemble. I do recommend everyone to go and look at the possibly ugliest logo ever presented by a political party. I don't know who came up with this.
Link in our show notes. Yeah.
We should, because this person, I hope he or she was not well paid for it, because it's a really bad job. I have never seen anything like it. But that's maybe a detail in all of this. She also released a book called Réveillons-nous, so wake up. Not that woke, I would assume, but it can read a little bit like a manifesto. So, of course, that also another step maybe towards a presidential bid. But maybe the most important thing is that who is she trying to get, on board for this? So she's claiming that she has been in talks with both Agnès Buzyn, so former health minister, during COVID, we must say, and wasn't a very popular health minister, a former justice minister, Éric Dupond-Moretti, and some other former ministers. Some are also claiming that she would try to get François Hollande, the former president, on board. So she wants to sort of join, well, a little bit like the centrist idea. Once again, she wants to bring over those who are not too far right in the Républicain Party. Someone like Xavier Bertrand, for example, or Valérie Pécresse. And then the more right-wing side of socialists like François Hollande. But, it's really in the beginning. I don't know, is this laying a foundation? There's a long way before she will get anywhere near the setting the roof, I would assume.
Yeah, and she's joining a club of former Macron ministers who also started their own, own movement, right? You already mentioned Éric Dupond-Moretti, former Minister of Justice. It is interesting. What do these people think? I mean, that everybody's waiting for their ideas of France, and then they will, on their own, be able to become France's next president.
I don't know, but when you look at what is clear when you look at the statistics and the opinion polls, existing politicians and former politicians, the French public doesn't have a lot of trust in these former politicians. So it seems to me sometimes a little bit like a game of like an internal like a club where they hang out together and build their programs together, but with, after all, not that much support from the French public. And that is where they probably should put their efforts, because that is what is really needed in France at the moment. Political parties that represent the population that people believe in and have trust in, and think can change and move the country forward. So to be continued.
Yeah, to be continued, absolutely. And one of the former prime ministers, another former prime minister of Emmanuel Macron, who also would like to run, even though it's still a public secret, is Édouard Philippe. But this week there was some news that could upset his presidential bid, because he's also suspected of embezzlement of public funds. What's that story about, Sarah?
We'll see what impact this could have on his presidential bid. There had been rumors for a little while that something might be coming up that could interfere with his presidential hopes. And if this is it, we'll see how heavy and how, what impact it will have. Is there other accusations of embezzlement or financial wrongdoings elsewhere? I don't know. This particular case dates back to a couple of years, and it was the setting up of this Cité numérique du Havre. So Le Havre is the city where he's the mayor, and to manage this cité, this center, they set up an association that was then going to receive a lot of public money. The accusation then from a whistleblower is that Édouard Philippe wasn't. He was both the person who signed the deal to give this association the money, but he's also in charge of the association. So he will be the one then being able to use all of this money as then the mayor of Le Havre. And to add the whole thing is that the association LH French Tech was the name of it. It was the only candidate for this. It's technical, but it's more, the interest is more at like, will this have an impact on his presidential ambitions or not? We will see. There are many French politicians who have had accusations of both embezzlement and corruption, and who have still managed to both stay in very high positions and go for participate in elections. So he wouldn't be the first to continue this race, even if he's accused of this.
Yeah, and of course the other presidential hopefuls, Marine Le Pen and also Jordan Bardella, also are having trouble with the justice. So it's quite a nice company, all those candidates being involved in maybe very scandalous affairs. But we will follow this, of course, at So French, because that's why we started this podcast in the first place. All the drama and developments in French politics.
And just before we wrap up this edition, to remind that there is a link also between French cinema and French politics and Bolloré and French politicians especially, because you remember, Stefan, where did Nicolas Sarkozy go after he was elected French president in 2007?
But I think right after his election, he went to Le Fouquet's, I think, to celebrate. But a couple of days later, he already went on holiday, right?
He went on. He got on a yacht owned by no one less than Vincent Bolloré to take a couple of days and relax before taking on the heavy job of president of France. So there are links, many of those, between the world of finance and business, of course, and politics here in France.
Well, the real link, of course, between all these stories is So French, our podcast. You can find all our episodes where you usually get your podcast, including on YouTube. Search for @SoFrenchShow and you should find us, or through the link on our Instagram.
And please share this episode with your friends and families or enemies. And you can send us an email if you want to share your comments. The address is bonjour@sofrench.show. This So French podcast is produced and presented by me, Sara Bertilsson.
And by me, Stefan Vries, and this podcast's original music is made by Laurent Blot. We're back in 2 weeks with a new episode and new developments in French politics. Until then, take care. Au revoir.
Au revoir.